Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it, I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network,
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
What does it look like? What does it look like to honor your wife? Or, in this case, because Dr. Date the Word Carson himself has designated tomorrow. And as you might imagine, it is 3/7. So, Dr. Date the Word has put this out here that 1 Peter 3:7, is an opportunity for us to honor our wives tomorrow. So the idea is, what does that actually mean to you? And this verse that we're talking about, 1 Peter 3:7, has got some gigantic implications for men out there. In fact, Dr. Carson, Dr. Date the Word Carson, I should say, he would instruct his students at Liberty that if you don't get this verse right, this might be more important in your quiet time, right, Doc?
Yeah, because ultimately, if you're having your quiet time, but you're not honoring your wife, God's not hearing your prayers. And part of your quiet time is a prayer time.
So you got to quote the whole verse for him to get that.
Here we go. 1 Peter 3:7, husbands, likewise, dwell with your wife with understanding, or the King James had knowledge, but with understanding, giving honor to the wife as the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. That's powerful instructions for a husband. And as you and I were talking, I said, you can't have a proper premarital counseling, discipleship with a young man without covering 1 Peter 3:7. This verse is loaded, gigantic information about how we're supposed to, as husbands, conduct ourselves.
Right. And so it begs the question, what does that mean?
Yeah.
This one doesn't, like it says in Ephesians, love your wife. This one says honor. And it's a different word. It has different ramifications. And so what does that mean exactly? And I know a lot of folks struggle with what does that mean to honor a parent that's, full of shenanigans.
Yeah.
So, those are the challenges. And, as you may recall, this is a live show, so we need you to call with your idea of what does it mean to honor your wife. 866-348-7884 is the number to call in and share. And boy, would we love for you to do that today. I think that if you're a wife, call in and share with us, what would that mean? What would honor look like to you? What would it take for you to feel honored by your spouse? 866-348-7884. One way would be to hear your husband call in and say, this is 866-348-7884. What is it? What does it look like?
Yeah.
In practical ways to honor and just, we were talking about it before the show, that the word honor in Hebrew, as you might guess, I love to look at such things.
Yes.
It certainly has with it this idea of weight. In fact, it sometimes translated in Hebrew as glory. And the first time it's actually used in the Bible is that it said that Abraham had great honor or great riches. It's translated in some versions. But he had that, and based on how God had what? Honored him. Yeah. And how did he do it? Well, he had donkeys and camels and sheep and goats and servants and, all sorts of things. But more than anything Abraham had, what did he have? What did God give him? A relationship that was unbelievable. He had faith, right?
Yes. And that faith caused Abraham and God to be connected. And Abraham honored God, and God honored him.
Right. He had faith in Abraham. Abraham had faith in him. So to have faith in your wife is a great way to honor.
Yes.
Like it's a huge thing. I can tell you that, anytime that I begin to lose faith, and I'm not talking about faith in just being faithful, I'm talking about faith in like, oh, she's at the grocery store. Is she going to, she, there's all sorts of ways that God tests us in having faith in our spouses, and it's really connected in a lot of ways to the word grace. I don't know if you ever knew that, but the last letter in Hebrew in the word grace is very connected to faith, because when you are favored by somebody, part of the reason that you're favored by them is they believe in you. This guy's going to come through, or this lady's going to come through in this particular situation. And so, as I think about one of the ways to honor is literally to, believe in that my wife is going to come through in this situation, and have faith in her, that kind of thing.
Well, I'm going to take it to another step there.
Go for it.
Where Billy Graham said that his wife, what made her so indispensable to him was, I'm going to just quote this. He said, "My work through the years would have been impossible without her encouragement and support." So he honored her by the way she encouraged him. He wanted everyone to know, I can't do this without my wife. She believed in him, and now he believes in her, and he's complimenting her. And one of the ways we will honor our wives is with verbal compliments. It speaks to not just the ears, but it gets into the heart. I don't have to hear every day, "I love you," but my wife needs to hear that, needs that affirmation.
Right, and you're going to like this, Nick. The idea of honor having a lot to do with weight, right? And so when you think of just Billy Graham, from what I understand, one of the heaviest things in the world is one Billy Graham. It's a weighty topic, You'll get it. It'll come to you. One Billy Graham. Okay. That's a lot of weight. 866. On that note, 866-348-7884. Come on, we need you to tell us. What does it look like to honor your wife? 866-348-7884. 866-34-TRUTH. We'll be right back with a whole lot more. Dr. Date the Word. Again, it's 1 Peter 3:7. Check it out. We'll be right back.
Truth Talk Live.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's question that we are hoping you'll call in and give us an answer. 866-348-7884 is the number to call in. What does it look like to honor your wife? 866-348-7884. We got Rick Powers. Rick, you're on Truth Talk Live. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Robby. Thank you, Dr. Carson. Appreciate you gentlemen being on at 4 o'clock today on Truth Talk Live. Realize that tomorrow is our basically Wife Appreciation Day, and it's something that we need to appreciate her every day. I heard Dr. Carson say, well, I go with his wife. I completely agree. My wife's my greatest supporter. She supports me in everything, probably obviously in our marriage, our relationship. She's my best friend, and my business career. And also like to say, you get back in your 60s, you're looking at a situation where it's the most important thing is that companionship in the relationship being so supportive, and like Dr. Carson said a while ago, I try to do that on a daily basis because they definitely need to do that. We should not lose sight of that. What do you gentlemen think?
I love all of the above, and
Yes.
I can tell you that if you're a pastor, a pastor's wife has a unique job opportunity, and that until you actually step into that role, I don't think you really understand. But again, I can't even imagine. I don't want to imagine. without her support, without her, like you talked about, encouragement, and without her friendship, because it's interesting in that particular role. I imagine you experienced the same thing, Doc, that your friends and the people that you're ministering with are all of a sudden just become more and more combined than if you had, when I was a car salesman, it was a different deal.
Yeah. Ministry, you need that helpmate that's right there. And it works both ways, because this month of March, by the way, is Pastor Wives Appreciation Month.
Is it really?
And we've got a pastor appreciation month in October, but more and more we're realizing, and we were just at a conference down in Florida, we're taking time to just pour into each other, the ladies to pour into each other, because they do carry a large weight. Because when the husband's being beat up and struggling with the vision, but I also see that in any role. You got a man he's got a dream, trying to build a company. That wife brings so much encouragement there, and that's why, again, we've got to go the other direction and make sure we're always being appreciative, honoring. Rick, as we talked about this, the word honor carries an idea of respect. And
yes,
I'm telling you, when I watch a young man with a young lady and he's disrespectful to her, I just want, it's time for you, honey, to find another person now. I tell girls, I tell girls at Liberty, if he's disrespectful to you in dating, it will not get better in marriage. It's one of the clues of a great marriage. How does he treat you? And to honor, is it already starting? And to open doors is a small thing, but a big thing.
Yes, it is.
To make sure that, again, needs are being met for her before they're being met for you.
The nice thing about my wife is she reminds me, you're not, from her standpoint, and she's right, you're not only supposed to open the door, you're supposed to close the door.
That's right. You're right.
Oh, my God.
And if I don't do
gentlemen,
it.
too.
Yeah.
I agree. And also, too, just to add, and I was blessed to have a Christian father. And it's so important for us as fathers, as Christian fathers that have sons, to show them that we treat their mothers, and is the example to set for them to be able to treat their wives also in a like you said, Doc, basically in honor and respect. So that's so important. I was so blessed by that.
Yeah, that's awesome, Rick. I'm so glad you called in. That's wonderful, wonderful stuff. You have a great week, my friend. Have a great
you too.
1 Peter 3:7 day tomorrow.
Yes, I want to hear a report about how you have honored your wife.
I definitely will, Doc. I appreciate you, Robby, being on the airways there for the Truth Talk Live.
Thank you, sir. God bless. 866. Come on, get in on this now. It's fun. 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. You know why I love the word knowledge? It says before it says honor, it says in knowledge. Okay, and I just picture how you probably were in those early dates, right?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there with your eyes across the dinner table. You weren't on your phone, right? That's dishonoring. Just saying, you're sitting there with your eyes across the table, and you're hanging on every word because you're wanting to know what is your favorite color? What is it that you like to do? What because you're learning. You're a learner. Mm-hmm. Just like you go into the Word to learn, right? And what am I going to find out about God today? Well, what am I going to find out about my wife today?
Yes.
Because knowledge, in other words, when you get to know somebody biblically, and as far as Genesis is concerned, you're going to have some babies, okay? I mean, knowledge, it has to do with intimacy. Mm-hmm. And intimacy, right, is understanding what it is that that they want. And so one of the big ways, Jesus said it, if you love me, obey my commandments. But to honor somebody, you're going to obey them to some extent because, and I love this idea of this to obey, is that, you've heard me say this before, I don't particularly care for pizza, but Tammy loves pizza, right? And so if I stop and I go get Tammy a pizza, even though I'm not, and all the way home, I'm thinking about how much I can see her eyes light up when she sees that pizza. This is going to be great. Now, in a way, because I know my wife through knowledge, that whole idea, I am anticipating how much she's going to like that. Or, by the same way, and I'm talking about a car door, okay? From my wife's standpoint, and I know this because she'll tell me, because my father actually set the bar on this for me because he did it for she said, now your father's a real gentleman. He not only opens a door, he closes it, And so...
Wow, a real gentleman.
Because... when she gets in the car, he opened the door and then he gently closed it. That was his style because my father was, had those manners and all that stuff that I don't know why he didn't completely pass them on to me, or I'm just a slacker or whatever, whatever it is. I'm working on it. And Tammy will tell you he's working on it. He doesn't get it all the time, but
that's the beauty. We have time to work on it. I'm headed to my 37th year marriage, and I'm still learning how my wife thinks. And I want to say, I don't understand her. But you know what? God's word doesn't allow that. So we're supposed to.
Unfortunately, we're going to lose some of you. They're going to have to listen to the podcast. The rest of it, in this particular market and other markets, we're going to be on for another half hour, and we need your help. What does it look like to honor your wife? 866-348-7884. Call now. We'll have you when we come back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's question is, what does it look like to honor your wife? What does that look like practically? We would love to hear from the ladies. Like we heard from one man, and I understand, it's hard to sound prideful or whatever, but you can help other people by some of the ways that you work. Now, I can assure you that if Tammy were to call in and say, that stuff Robby saying, and we too, it's interesting.
Yeah, we're both being very cautious because if our wives are listening, like, well, I sure hope you start practicing what you're preaching.
Yeah, that would be an interesting conversation. So we need to know, what this feels like on the other end. So call us 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. So I get that. We have something in our mind that we want to accomplish, and again, we fall short, and as do all people, I suppose, to some end. We ask God to help us. So I understand that whole thing if you don't want, but what your intentions are, or whatever, may be really helpful to somebody else who's trying to figure out, how do I do this? How do I apply this verse? What is this? How does this verse work? Because obviously,
that's it right there.
Obviously, we do not want our prayers hindered, but more than that, we want to obey what God is telling us to do.
And what does it look like to really honor? So give us a call here. Let's hear what you're thinking. What has worked for you that we might be able to then do, and it'll work for us?
There you go. 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. And when I think of that, I love that word knowledge. I keep going back to that.
Yeah.
Because that time when you're falling in love and beginning that relationship and pushing into intimacy, last night Tammy will tell you I love movies, and I watch them constantly. If there's not Christmas movies, I'm watching love movies. And you see this time and again that this girl is dating 2 or 3 different guys, but the real one is really interested in what she has to say. The other guy's always talking about, what he did at work that day and whatever, and you could just watch the girl's eyes kind of go rolling around because he's always talking about himself.
Some guy wrote a country song about that. I want to talk about me. That doesn't work.
Well, Well, you do have to. It's interesting balance. It's like you can't be withholding information about yourself.
Yep.
It's a balance. Like she needs to know stuff about you, and you need to explain how you feel about things and how you do things. But by the same token, you need to be really, really interested. Like if she wanted to bake something today, or she did something at her work or whatever that really got her interest. And quite often, I don't know if your wife is like mine, Dr. Carson. Interestingly, we've been married the same amount of time. She has relationship struggles that she wants to talk about, because she has multiple friends and multiple people that go to the church that we go, obviously I pastor, and we're, constantly talking to that. And so she, that's of great interest to her. Women are very interested in those kind of things. I shouldn't say all women, but I know my wife is. No. And I'm sure you experience that.
Yes. Yeah. And when a wife has had a difficult day, and they don't want to unload, but they do need to unload. One of the tips I've had to give to many of guys headed into marriage, but also guys in marriage, we like to be Superman. Solve the problem. So I come home and my wife begins to tell me about her day. And in my mind, I am thinking, Robby, if you did this and if you did that. So I'm just waiting for the moment for her to stop talking so I can tell her how to fix all of her problems. And she stops and I go, well, if you'd have done this, if you'd done that. And all of a sudden I get a look like, you think I'm stupid. No, I thought, and I tell guys this, what your wife needs is your shoulder, not your solutions. And I have to preach that to myself every now and then. They just need to unload. They need to talk it out. And that's one of the ways you honor your wife. You're letting her vent, but you're not going to solve the problem. She knows how to solve the problem. She just needs to vent and talk about it. So to be a listener is to be one of the ways to honor.
Right. It's like the whole verse in Deuteronomy, hear, O Israel. In other words, listen.
We do like to tell God everything, don't we? And he's over going, I like to talk to you for a few minutes. Hear, O Israel, listen to me.
The Lord.
Hear, O Dwayne, listen to me.
But it is an interesting challenge. And then the worst thing I get caught all the time. A lot of people say, Robby, you're such a great listener. Tammy goes, are you talking about my husband? She'll always, when she knows I'm checked out, she'll come back with this. So what did I just say?
That is a husband's nightmare.
It's just, does he ever do that?
Oh, big time. And I'm like,
Right.
Missed that one. Went right over my head, honey.
Come on, guys. We need your help here. Can you tell we're struggling? The doc has confirmed that tomorrow is International Honor Your Wife Day. Yeah. So what does it look like to honor your wife? Especially ladies. This is your chance to chime in and tell us, man, you guys are missing the main point. 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. So let's go where no man has gone before. Let's go to that weaker vessel statement.
Okay.
Let's quote the verse one more time so we can get it in context.
Husbands, likewise, dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and being heirs together of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. So there it is. What does it mean for the wife to be viewed the weaker vessel? And I'll throw at mine first, Robby. For me, the idea has always been thinking of like china, of a Tiffany glass. It's fragile. It's got to be handled with much care. And I always wanted to say with Danita, my mindset wanted to be TTLC, triple tender loving care. I wanted to make sure I was handling her with such care because she's more valuable. And if anyone thinks that a woman is not valuable, the next statement here, Jesus died for men and women, shedding the exact same amount of blood. He gave his life for every person. So there's not any person here, no one gender that's better than the other. Jesus says, I love all men and women. And now my wife is a joint heir with Christ. She's going to get inheritance from Jesus when she gets to heaven. So I'm supposed to treat her as one as Jesus loved her so much he died for her.
There you go. And you know, the interesting thing is that according to Hebrews, Eve was tempted, but Adam wasn't.
No.
And so you get that idea that in the case of temptation, that and again, a vessel is doing what? It's holding something, right? And in this idea, it's holding the treasure of God. Right? You know, that if there's a treasure that we have in us, of some part of our vessel, then what is it? It's that God part that's in our heart, right? And so she's a vessel just like you're a vessel. But according to Hebrews, somehow or another, Eve was tempted, but Adam wasn't.
No, Adam disobeyed.
Not only disobeyed, but honestly, when you think about it, he did not honor his, in other words, he should have stepped into the equation before, in other words, that snake should have been taking a beating. Adam should have been having him for lunch. He was obviously standing right beside her. She wouldn't have been able to just hand him the fruit.
That's right.
Right? And so if he's standing there and letting the snake get away with the shenanigan, I mean, it's time to step in and say, hey, bozo, what are you talking about my God like that? You know, or whatever he could have done. But the other thing that I've often noted in that story between Adam and Eve and the serpent was he did not pray. And so praying for our wives is one of the huge ways, in my view, of treating her as the weaker vessel from a standpoint of lead us not into temptation, Lord. I don't know where I'm supposed to step in here, but 866-348-7884. What does it look like to honor your wife?
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Well, welcome back to Truth Talk Live. How fun today is from what Date the Word Carson has been telling me for actually days now is that 1 Peter 3:7 would make tomorrow, being 3/7, International Honor Your Wife Week. Day. Internationally. So everywhere in the world it's a day to honor your wife. Actually, every day is a day to honor your wife. But, you know, that begs the question, what does that look like? What does it look like to honor your wife? If you're a wife, we would really love to hear. We have not heard a single wife. 866-34. We only got one more segment to get it in. We need to know. Inquiring men want to know.
I was getting ready to say
how could we do this that would really
two of us
help
would want to know.
Yeah, we want to know if nobody else. 866-348-7884. 866-348-7884. What does it look like to honor your wife? Right before we went to the break, we were talking about, you know, where no man has gone before. What is this weaker vessel? You know, how do you navigate that particular statement?
No.
And, you know, thank you, Peter, for throwing that one in our lap. But I've always found it fascinating the way that the Hebrew says that Adam was not tempted, but Eve was. But Adam was clearly standing there.
Yeah.
But Adam did not, I mean, God's his best friend. and he doesn't pray. And had he prayed for Eve, it would have been a different. We'd all be in a different situation. But God, ordained all that so that here we are. But nonetheless, it's a wonderful opportunity because one of the main roles of a husband is to protect his wife.
Yes.
And there's a lot of ways you protect her. And and I've told the story many times. Nick knows this story that I was afraid of the dark. So if we used to hear noises in the house, here's how much of a protector my wife had. I was like, Tammy, can you go see what that is?
Oh, my.
It's true, because I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. But God helped me with that. I prayed a lot, and one day, I got alone with God, and he instructed me on how to overcome that fear, because perfect love drives out fear. And the night came when actually there was a burglar.
Oh, my.
On the roof of our house. And I heard it. Because I was actually up doing my quiet time, as you might imagine, Doc, and I hear this person on the roof of our house. And we lived in Paughtown at the time, and I'm like, what in the world? And so I go get my shotgun.
There you go.
And rather than saying, Tammy, go check it out, as I walked outside, I'll never forget as long as I live, I walked outside and I, cocked the shotgun by, putting a shell in the chamber, and the would-be burglar, whatever he was on my roof, he heard it, and he said, don't shoot me. My wife is calling the police. She's like, my husband's got a man on the roof. He's got a shotgun. It was one of those nights. But, I realized how far God had brought me to actually being a protector in that particular situation. It was that particular opportunity of, honoring my wife in that way. So we got Marty. Thank goodness Marty is in Jacksonville, Florida. Marty, you're on Truth Talk Live.
Yeah, I was in the military, so I deployed a lot. But what I would do is when I knew I was going to deploy, I would take some construction paper, and when I cut out little hearts and put little things like "I love you," "I miss you," "Can't wait to see you again," tell her how beautiful she is, and I would hide these notes all over the house. And for many, many years, she would keep them, and meant a lot to her, and open the door to the car, and even going to the restaurant, I'd make sure I got her a chair for her, and I would help her with her jacket, and I'd love to write poetry to her. My wife is gone now. I lost her.
How many years were you guys married?
We're married 37 years.
Oh, wow.
And I miss her so bad. She recently died of cancer.
We're very sorry.
We hear that. Oh, I am so sorry. I am so sorry, Marty. But, you're honoring her right now, aren't you?
Yes.
She was my everything. My heart is torn. And I'm deeply, deeply sad.
We hear that.
And I'm thankful that our Father in heaven draws near to those with that broken heart that you've got right now. And he comes alongside. And Marty, he is going to heal. Psalms 143:7, he heals and he binds up the broken heart. And but your call, you're helping others, just being intentional in doing things to make sure the wife knows. And I just, would there have ever been a chance where one of those cameras would have caught your wife finding one of those notes, what her face would have looked like, and the eyes just light up because here's her husband leaving precious notes to let her know just how special she is.
Yeah, and how cool is it that God put it on your heart to make her hearts, that now you have those memories to treasure until you meet again, right?
Yes. Yeah, she loved. I was able to introduce her to Christ many years ago.
Really?
and she accepted Jesus, and she was Catholic before, and she really didn't understand, everything about Jesus. And I explained to her about Christ, and she received Christ. She was baptized. She was faithful in church and faithful out of church. She was really a sweet, sweet woman, and I dearly miss her.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
And brothers, I wish some people in my church would reach out to me sometimes, because it hurts when somebody reaches out. It really does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it really does. And if one of those people at your church reached out, what do you want to share that you haven't been able to?
I just wish I could have a friend or somebody to talk to, Maybe somebody to listen, just to care, just to care.
Yeah, and it means a lot. It's interesting you say that, Marty, because just last night, I did the funeral for one of our members that lost his wife last week. And I was arguing with myself and God kind of last night, like, should I call Johnny? I don't want to bother him. He's probably, but I don't think I want it. But should I call him, God? And God put it pretty like, Robby, call him. And when I called him, he immediately said, well, I don't know if this is a good time, Pastor. I'm sitting there looking at pictures and I'm too emotional. And then later on, because the conversation went on for a while, it was a great time.
Yeah.
Because just like you, Marty, it's wonderful to have somebody to just share the shoulder, right?
It would be. It really would be.
Well, I can assure you, I'm gonna put you back on hold, and I'm gonna ask Nick, our producer, to get your number. You got a friend.
Yeah.
We'll be calling. If it's all right with you, Marty, I would be delighted to call you a little bit later, okay?
Thank you so much.
And pray with you. Why don't we all pray with you right now, Marty? Lord, thank you for Marty. I thank you for his heart. I thank you for his wife and for the 37 years that they had to share life. It's an amazing thing that we wouldn't be alone. And Lord, now Marty's alone. And it hurts. And as Dr. Carson said, Lord, come alongside him.
Yes.
Help him to feel your presence. Lord, only you can touch hearts, and Marty needs your help. Marty needs you to come alongside of him, but he also, Lord, put it on somebody's heart that knows him, somebody from his church, put it on his pastor's heart to call him up and share. Lord, help raise up people to come up alongside of Marty as you do. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Yeah. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Marty.
Thank you.
I'll put you on hold, okay?
All right, thank you.
So as Marty was mentioning that, I actually remembered, I read this story one time about this couple that would write all over the house Shimley. Have you ever heard of this?
Mm-mm.
Which Shimley is an acronym for See How Much I Love You.
See how much I love you.
See how much I love you, right? So Shimley is, you'd spell it out, that acronym. And he would put it like on the toilet paper, She would come back with it in the sugar bowl. She would write it out in the sugar bowl, and you'd open up the sugar bowl, whatever that. And so back in the day when Tammy and I could use sugar, I picked that up, and for years, I got really good at writing Shimley in the sugar bowl. Now, I'm not saying this out of pride. I just remember how neat it was for me, because I always get up before Tammy, and I was like, she's going to see that first thing, and if I didn't, like, where was my Shimley this morning? And it just became a cool thing, because you could hear that in Marty, that he shared, those things that really. You got something like that, Doc, that you and Danita, you need a Shimley, man.
Oh, look, our time has come to an end, and I'm not sure I'll be able to have time to answer the question.
Well, next year,
Well, next year.
Next year,
I get her flowers. That's what I do.
You beat my true pair there.
Surprise her with flowers.
That's a good thing to do. That's wonderful. Remember, it's International Honor Your Wife tomorrow. Get ready.